Hi, I'm Allie. Join me in making this Let It Snow bracelet featuring a couple different simple wire as well as bead weaving techniques. Remember to stay tuned for the whole video because we're going to be switching the process that we use and see how we attach the charms to our actual bracelet. If you need any materials, go ahead and look at the links below in the description of the video. Gather everything up, let's get started. So to get started, we're going to be using 3 pliers to help us with this Let It Snow chain bracelet. And I want you to have a wire cutter handy, a round nose pliers, and a needle nose pliers. If you need to know what these do and how they work, we have more videos on that. Not going to go into detail. From here, I also have 2-inch head pins, some Potomac crystal snowflakes, and these are in the color shift blue color, as well as some 8mm pearls in Montana, and then some 4mm crystals in the opal AB. I have my charm bracelet or my chain right here, and I'm not going to work with that right away. I want to do more of my charms and then set them up and decide how I want it to look. To start, we're going to start very easily, and I'm going to make a couple little charms that hang down from the piece, just using head pins. Again, these are 2-inch head pins to make some little dangles. So I'm making my own charms, adding the 4mm crystal right above the 8mm round. You can switch this up and just do the 8mm round by itself, up to you. From here, I'm going to go in with my needle nose pliers, take my needle nose pliers, leave a tiny little like 1/8 of an inch right above the crystal, bend my pliers back to the back, grab my round nose pliers, hold it right there in that little crease so that the wire is coming straight out from the back. And from your angle, you're going to see the pearl and the crystal sitting straight in front of you. That wire is coming straight out from your chest. Wire goes over the top of the round nose pliers till it hits on the other side and hits those crystals and pearls. Switch from the top jaw to the bottom jaw of the pliers. So notice how my hand just did a little turn. The piece of wire never came off the pliers. It just went from that top jaw to the bottom jaw. You want to make sure when doing that your little eye pin that we're creating stays back as far as it can go on the round nose pliers. And then the wire goes back, again, straight out from your chest, 90 degrees. So your angle becomes the same, that you're looking at the pearl and the crystal, and then you're just going to have your loop there. I'm going to repeat that 5 times for 5 little dangles with my pearl at the bottom and my crystal at the top. Once you have your head pins and your pearls there, what I do is I'm going to go in as close as I can where the wire intersects itself. So not on the opposite side. I'm going to go in right before the loop touches there, cutting, you can see inside the loop there, and cut off that extra little wire. Save that extra little wire because it's pretty long actually, and we'll utilize that. You have that loop there, and you're just going to set these all down as you go through and cut them off. Now you can see I'm doing this all at once because it's a time saver to hold this same tool and use it multiple times as we go in. Once again, we're holding on to that piece of wire that we are cutting off. I'm going to then slide these to the side and get ready to use my extra wire for my snowflakes. So remember, we have that little extra wire there. Don't need to waste it. Don't need to use more head pins. We're going to use this extra little wire. I'm going to make a figure 8. This is also incredibly helpful if you need to make the chain a little bit longer. If you're using this particular one that came in the advent calendar, it's going to be 8 inches. However, if you do have a bigger wrist, you can always make extensions like we're going to be doing here with the snowflake. So unlike the head pin section of the pearls, we are going to be working with this 5 pieces of extra wire. If you don't have those 5 pieces of extra wire, you made a little boo-boo, go ahead and cut off the end of your head pin if you want to, or grab some 20 gauge wire. I'm going to go in here and make a loop. Again, it needs to be big enough to go through the chain, holding the wire where I can see it, but I can't feel it coming out of the top of the round nose pliers. I'm going to make a rounded loop. See how that's rounded there on the wire. Putting that back in, and just if you can, straighten that out. It opens up the wire just a tiny bit. Go back in once again and press that closed. We're going to make these 5 eye pins, they're called, and then we're going to get ready to attach our snowflakes to it. So this is step 1, and this is going to be the top that connects to our bracelet. So you can see, again, I like to hold one tool, and there's one end of this wire that usually is a little bit rounded from the previous use. So you can just use that side and round it all out. Once you have those there, we're going to get ready to attach them to our snowflakes. So our next step is using these eye pins to make little figure eights and connect our snowflakes to this. The snowflakes have a little hole at the top. I'm going to slide my eye pin in from the back, grab my pliers. I don't want it too tight against the back. I want to leave myself about 1/4 of an inch and bend that up toward the snowflake. From here you have wire sticking out the front. Just use your hands. It's nice and easy to go in with a soft wire, bend that toward the back, go in, cut off that extra little wire there. And what that's going to do then is allow you to pinch that little snowflake closed. And you're going to have this figure eight then that sits and allows you to add the beads onto your chain as we get to it. So once again, we're going to have our figure eight go through the back to the front, bend that wire up towards the snowflake, bend this wire back just with your fingers again or with your pliers, and then cut off the extra wire. I'm going to do that with all of these, making these little figure eights, trying if you can to get your eye pins to face in different directions, so one ends on one side, one ends on the other side. If you need to and they end on the same spot, you can go in with your pliers and simply give a little twist so you switch that up. That just makes it a little bit less likely that either of those will open up. I'm going to continue that for 4 and one more for my 5th, and then get ready to go in to do some of my seed beading. So now we're going to actually start doing some bead weaving, and we are going to connect directly to the bracelet as we make these little hang down charms. So we're going to make the crystals appear bigger, and then we're going to use some of our Rounduos to make additional little snowflakes. To start, I have my opal 4mm crystals, and I'm having a size 12 needle or a size 10 needle on honestly just a thread scrap because it doesn't use much. I'm going to pick up a section of 4 crystals with one of my 11 OC beads between each. The 11 OC beads are the Toho brand of the Cosmic, and I'm going to add, again, a seed bead for every crystal. So when you get done, you should have 4 of your crystals followed by a seed bead each. I'm going to tie this into a knot. So going to the end of my thread and needles here, tying this into a knot. If you've never done bead weaving before, this is very simple. You can do this, you can tie into a knot. So I did a nice tight knot there. I'm going to take my needle and thread and sew back through the next crystal and the next seed bead. You ended on a seed bead, so you know that to progress, so you're not backtracking on that knot, you're going through the crystal. Come out through the seed bead, give a little tight pull, and what that does generally is pulls that knot into the interior of a crystal. Coming out the seed bead then, you can decide how and where you want to add onto your chain. I like adding on this way because it makes it so that it's not going to fall off at all. I'm going to pick the middle of my chain just to keep it very simple. Grab on here 7 seed beads. So again, coming out of the 11O, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 seed beads. Grabbing on because this is our first link to the bracelet, right in the middle. Grabbing onto one of the chain links there, taking my needle through the chain link. And then I'm going to turn the thread back over. So see how it's going to just kind of stay right along there? I'm going to take my thread and needle back through the 11O that my thread was coming out of. And if you want to set it more towards the center, you see that it's going to go through there anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you put 3 seed beads on, then sew through the chain. It's all going to equal out. From here, I'm going to reinforce, going back through the seed beads, back through that chain. If you've ever sewn on a button, you can do this. Very simple. There you go. That secured it. Take your needle and thread once again back through that 11O seed bead, around the circle then, through the crystal, through the seed beads that are already there, and I'm getting my thread and needle back to that starter thread. Take that thread and needle, tie the 2 in knots, 1 and 2. If you want to glue a little bit of that, you can. You don't need to. I use a thread zap or a thread burner, and I'm going to take that and burn down that little thread edge. Again, if you want to, you can take your needle, go through that crystal that's after the knot, give a nice tight tug, pulling that knot into the interior, burn down your thread on one side, burn down your thread on the other side, and then burn that thread flush towards the project. That's one. I'm going to repeat this, separating out to get my kind of center area on 2 more sections of my bracelet. Once the first little beaded charm is completed, we're going to do the same thing, but with groupings of 5 to look like snowflakes with our Rounduos. The nice thing with the Rounduos, they have 2 holes, so we can get more of kind of that star snowflake shape. You want to make sure anytime you're using a multi-holed bead that both holes are open. If one is a little bit blocked from the coating, go ahead and just take your needle through there and you can usually push that out. And I'm going to put 5 of my Rounduos onto my needle and thread. Again, I'm still using thread scraps that were attached to the needle here. Going down just like we did at the start, those 5 beads are on, and we are going to tie it into a circle. You can see right away it takes kind of that star shape to it. If you want, you can also do this with 4 beads. You can do this with 3 beads or even make it larger. After a couple knots, I'm going to take my needle and thread, go through the next Rounduo, still that first hole, and then we're going to reverse the thread. Reversing the thread means we're going the opposite direction. And to reverse the thread, we're going to go from the bottom hole of the Rounduo to the top hole of the Rounduo. Now we're going to add in our same 11-0 seed bead, 3 of our seed beads, and then so on to the next Rounduo to the next open hole. So then from bead 1 to 2, now from 2 to 3, rounding this around. And as you do this, it will naturally start to go into that peak or into that picot trim. Keep sewing around. Adding in the last 3. So see, as you get tighter and tighter, it'll create that trim. As you go in now and you have those 3, you're going to go to the top or the point of that first grouping of seed beads. So we put on 3, your needle and thread is going to come out 2, and we're going to get ready just like we did to attach these to the charm bracelet as well. I'm going to attach the first 2 between my crystal dangles that I did. Same deal as we did previously. We're going to add in our 7 seed beads, make our loop, and attach it to our project. After we do that, same idea, sew down through, step down, and tie off the knot. Very, very simple. You can also use jump rings if you have them to attach these to the charm bracelet, or even some wire guards if you prefer. Once you're done connecting all the little seed bead charms on your bracelet here, you can see that it's ready for our wire charms. So I've placed these out that I have a grouping of 3 of my snowflakes from my Rounduos, and I've put them between the 2 that I already started and then 1 at the beginning. I'm leaving the end open because my wrist is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to have a little bit more space. If you want to, you can make more of anything as you're creating. When you're opening your eye pin that you've created, you want to open the eye pin on the pieces that have the wire by pulling to the side. Not back, because that's going to affect and open up that ring that you've already created. If you pull it to the side, it stays the exact same shape. So I'm going to open this up, look on my bracelet where I want this little pearl connection to be, hook it onto the chain, and if you're really particular, you can make sure that you're hooking onto all the chains that face one direction, since one is up and one is down. I'm just hooking on wherever, and then once again, closing up that loop. When I close up that loop, I want to make sure that my wire ends are touching, so that way I don't miss any charms off of my bracelet. I'm going to do the same thing as I add in my snowflakes all along the line here and create more of that dangle charm look. Once you add on all of your charms, you can see how fun it is and how much of a shape this bracelet and this charm happens. You can also look at the option of using some of your extra beads and some of your extra head pins to make little more dangles and hang down. This has the seed beads, the 4mm crystal, but I'm just going to keep it exactly like it is. I did leave a little bit of the end, like I said, open. If you want to, you can spread things out a little bit more or add in those extra charms or the extra little bead weaving sections to make it longer. But I like it to not have a ton of stuff at the end, so it's easier when I go to put it on and to connect. Also, one thing that I will do is I'll make a little bit of a charm to stick at the end of the bracelet. So once I clasp it and it works that you can hook it on to any of the links here, I'll have a little charm or a little dangle that hangs down to make it not seem as long. You can also trim it down if you want to as you're wearing it, decide to have that on there, but it's kind of nice to have that extra little charm. You can keep going, make it fluffy, wait if you're doing the advent calendar until the end and add even more beads because you'll have extras, and really have fun playing up the idea of creating these charm bracelets with both wire techniques as well as beading techniques. Thanks so much for joining me in this Let It Snow bracelet. Remember, if you do want to make this charm bracelet and you haven't purchased the advent calendar, go ahead and look below the video in the descriptions to get links to shop with us online. If you are making the bracelet, can't wait to see it. You can post your pictures in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. And don't forget, if you do change it up, comment below and let us know how, so that way this amazing beading community learns not only from us, but from fellow beaders as well. Thanks so much, Potomac Beaders, and stay tuned for the next video.